We are live here on Thursday night. I am Mark Adams along with former heavyweight contender, cruiserweight contender, BJ Flores. BJ, what's going on, my man?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on, Mark.
What have you been up to? Obviously, the world has stopped in the last month and a half. So, how are you handling things with everything going on? Tell everyone what you've been up to.
Man, I've been good. Everything's fantastic. Started doing the shows for Impact Sports this year with Steve Marcano. New production of boxing that's got a lot of upcoming shows in 2020 before everything happened, and 2021, of course. And that's pretty much been it. I've been doing some real estate stuff back in Arizona, and I started working with a kid, up and coming. Maybe you want to call him a YouTube sensation, you want to call him whatever you want, but I want to call him a pretty damn good fighter. And I've been working with him, with Shane Mosley since December.
You didn't mention his name.
Yeah, Jake Paul. Well, I think everybody saw him fight January 30th in Miami. He did a fantastic job. But I've been out here. I'm actually living in Calabasas right now, working with him. He's very serious about some of the stuff that he's doing, and he wants to get better. So where are you working?
Calabasas. You don't see Courtney and Kim and Chloe and the gang walking around there, do you? Or do you? I believe that
they might be around. I've probably seen them drive by a few times. I've seen a couple cars that probably are their cars, but I don't pay too much attention. I kind of stay to myself, and I don't really.
Well, when you're walking on the street, you're trying to tell me Kanye doesn't roll down the window and say, "What's up, BJ?"
Man, I don't even know if I'd recognize Kanye if I saw him out, to be honest. So, God bless him. He's doing a great job, but I'm not really too into that kind of stuff.
So as what's going on in the world, it sounds like you are doing a lot of stuff. Has that slowed anything down for you?
No, I'm really enjoying being retired, to be honest with you. It's really nice. I worked hard, and now it's time for me to kind of go into the second phase of my life and figure out what I wanted to do. And I wasn't really exactly sure what that was, because you go from fighting big fights and making good money to back to the real world, and it's a very cruel adjustment. So luckily I have some real estate. I've got a couple things that are still working for me, and I trained a couple kids, but nothing too serious. And when I got the opportunity to work with Jake, we started. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I first came, and he's a really hard worker. He's very dedicated. He comes from a very athletic background, football player and a wrestler. He's a tough kid, and Midwest kid. He's from Ohio. And we just got along really well, and just a lot more down to earth than I thought he'd be. And he's just down to work, and no nonsense, no BS, and he's just he wants to get better. So we're making it happen.
What's the difference? He's a kid. Obviously, he's known for being involved with these YouTube videos and whatnot. Is he a guy? He showed some skills when he fought in Miami a couple months back. Was he a guy that had no boxing experience at all when you got him? You actually had to start from scratch?
No, he'd been boxing for a couple years already, and he'd been working with a few guys. Before I was involved, he was working with Shane, and Shane was showing him obviously a lot of good things. And he had one fight previous to me joining the camp, and I originally came into camp as a sparring partner because one of my buddies works with Jake, and he asked me if I could come in and be willing to spar with him. And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And we sparred a couple times, and then we decided it'd be better if I was part of a training team. I'm just too heavy, and we need guys that simulate more like how the kind of guys Jake's going to fight. So I tried to bring in input when I could. Whenever Shane asked me to do things, I tried to do the best I could, and me and Jake got a really good chemistry with the mitt work and all that kind of stuff. So I started as Jake's mitt man, and we just kind of started going from there. And like I said, he called me after the last fight a few weeks after and said, "Hey, let's get to work." Of course, I was ready, so it was good.
What's it like also? I know you've been around a lot of great fighters, a lot of legends, through different things. What's it like working shoulder to shoulder with Shane Mosley?
Man, it's just, the guy's forgotten more than most people will ever know. So it's just a tremendous honor. Shane is such a hard worker and such a good guy and just such a straightforward guy. And he's just, the thing Shane does, he doesn't have to do what he does. He goes out of his way to make people's lives around him better. And he's into yoga, he's into meditation now. He's just he's a guy that's on the right track, and he just he's really in a good place right now. So I'm really happy for Shane. You see a lot of fighters go the other way, and Shane's in a very good place. Him and his wife Trista, they're doing fantastic. They're good friends of mine, and they're obviously a huge asset.
What do you see next for Jake? I know there was a rumor he'd be fighting at KSI. Is that a fight that when life gets back to normal that we may be seeing?
Jake's been ready to fight KSI ever since after the last fight. I mean, here's my thing. Like, if you're KSI, don't jump up in the ring and get in Jake's face and act like you're ready to fight. And then when multiple offers come to, of course, the COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff happened, so it threw it off. But even before that ever happened, KSI was like, look, I got my concerts, I got all this stuff. I mean, if that's what you want to do that. But don't jump up in the ring after the last fight and make it sound like you're ready to fight him next. I mean, we're ready for KSI anytime. It doesn't matter. I mean, KSI is the least of my worries. The KSI fight, honestly, will not go 3 rounds. That's 100% guaranteed. It will not go rounds. And the crazy thing about Jake's last fight is, it only went 1 round, but people didn't really get to see like what he can do at all. I mean, people have no idea what he can do, and I prefer it that way. So if he goes more rounds next time, then people will for sure see his ability and his talent. And for now though, I like keeping it quiet.
It seems like you've done some great work with Jake, and I know we talked a little bit off camera. I guess the training bug has hit you a little bit. Not full blown yet, the training bug, but fighters will see this that you took a guy who had limited experience. We can say that into a guy who's Jake Paul. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to fight for the championship of the world, but it seems like you're making him an admirable real fighter, so to speak. So other fighters may see that and. They may start reaching out to you. Is that something that if a certain fighter reaches out to you that, you could see training in your future?
I mean, Jake's my number 1 priority. So anything outside of him, if it worked out, potentially. But, I'm really like on a one-track mind right now. I'm not saying Jake's going to fight for the world title this year. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying, and I was just talking to him about it this morning, within the next 12 to 18 months, I could see him fighting some of the top American cruiserweights.
Wow.
100%.
That's
I'm not going to put him in with, the top, the top guys right now, the Blawoskis and the what's his face, Mars Breedis and
Dorticos and those guys, yeah.
There's other guys around that people would be very, very surprised and that he'll do very well with. And as far as the YouTube and the entertainment goes, he's smashing all those guys. It's not even going to be nothing.
So if training's your 3rd job and fighting was your 1st job, you for the past, I'd say, better part of the last decade, you've had a nice 2nd job, so to speak. Being the analyst, you've worked with many networks. Now you're taking on this new venture with the Impact Network. What have you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Man, Steve has been a good buddy of mine for a long time, so we've always been in touch. And Steve is one of those type of guys that he likes to get everybody involved. He's got tremendous energy. He's a people person, and he called me last year and was like, BJ, look, like this is the year it's going to all happen. Like I'm getting the TV network. We're going to have dates. We're going to have a reality TV show, and I want you involved in all of it. And I was like, the reality TV show, Steve, I'll pass on that. But any real stuff, real work, like as far as that relates to boxing, I'm in. So. We had our first show February 1st in Mescalero, New Mexico, 3 hours south of Albuquerque in a place where I've never been before. And, it was a good show. It turned out well. Austin Shaw was the main event, and he's got a lot of dates from Impact Network coming up. They were very happy with the show turnout.
And if I'm not mistaken, just being some of the things I've read about it, might be one of the most, if not the most active network in terms of fights once everything gets back going.
Yeah, and that's refreshing to see. Steve's one of those guys that likes to give other people opportunities. He likes to give guys chances to fight and prove their potential and their worth. And I just really like Steve. I've always liked Steve. His energy's good, and I just feel like he's the right guy for the job. He had the charisma, the ability, and just the personality to be able to pull us off. So I'm looking forward to it, and we got a good crew of guys that we're working with, and I'm excited.
We got a couple minutes left with BJ Flores, a fighter, trainer to the stars, broadcaster, real estate agent. What, did I miss anything yet? Rock star?
Yeah, I'm actually not an agent. I haven't taken my license yet or got my license, but I'm more of an investor. I'm more of a guy who's been passionate about real estate ever since I was 24 years old. When I first turned pro and I started making money, I just, my grandfather was my great-grandfather was a millionaire doing real estate. And I just thought that if you just continue to buy, eventually, he lived in Napa up in Northern California. And I said, if you buy and buy and buy, eventually, regardless of what happens with the economy, and everybody told me, if you just keep buying houses like this, if the economy goes bad, you're going to lose it all. And man, I just kept growing and growing and growing. And I've always loved it because of that.
You look like you're in a pretty nice real estate right now. You're saying that's one of the biggest kitchens I've ever seen in my life.
Good sized kitchen back here, Mark. It's pretty good.
There
one of the kitchens in the house.
One of the kitchens in the house.
One of the kitchens in the house, yeah.
Just before we got on, there's been some breaking news. I don't know if you have even heard it. There's a rumor going around. Actually, I think it's more than rumor that the powers that be have already started negotiations for a potential not Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight, maybe bypassing Deontay Wilder, to take place maybe in the Middle East later this year. That's the fight now after what Fury did back in February. What are your thoughts? Is something like that were to take place?
I mean, let's be honest. Besides Andy Ruiz, honestly, who I still hold in very high regard, just because he got outpointed to Joshua. I mean, people make it sound like Joshua went out there in the rematch and cleaned him out. He didn't. He never hurt him. He never did anything to him. He outboxed him. He did well. But, I'm one of those old-fashioned type of guys where, I like boxing. I like to see the sweet science. But when it comes to heavyweight boxing, I want to see the champion be able to inflict some damage. And I just don't feel like, Joshua was able to do that against Ruiz. And, he's probably smart not to do so. So I give him full credit for the win, but it just wasn't heavyweight boxing. I want to see some damage. Those are the biggest, baddest men on the planet. And I just, I like to see some aggression. But, I feel like Joshua and Tyson Fury is the only fight to make him outside of Deontay Wilder and his team. Nobody's really too worried about watching Deontay Wilder, go back in that rematch until he goes back out and proves himself again. Now, I don't take anything away from him. He's challenging the best guys. He's fighting the best guys. But, he fell short, very short in the last fight. And I feel like he needs to go back to the drawing board to build up some intrigue for the rematch. Because right now, I just don't feel like anybody cares to see it because it was so one-sided the first fight.
Yeah, the story which I saw, I guess it was broken maybe by Steve Kim and Mark Kriegel, said that there'd be so much money in it that they would be able to satisfy Wilder in a step-aside thing. So that's that could be something to look forward to as the year heads out. And I guess the last couple questions, or last question that maybe one could be 2-3 answers. Any couple fights? I guess we got Crawford and Spence. Any other fights that in the mind of BJ Flores you want to see sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I want to see a fight I would greatly like to see is Caleb Plant and David Benavidez.
Yeah.
Callum Smith and David Benavidez. Let's get these 168-pound guys going. Daniel Jacobs, David Benavidez. David Benavidez is probably my favorite young prospect right now. The kid is absolutely amazing. He's going to be a champion for a long, long time. Mark my words. And Terrence Crawford. Why don't we give our boy Errol Spence a little bit of a break? And how about Terrence Crawford fights just any top 5 welterweight, anybody, instead of the guys they've been pulling up for him. With all due respect to those guys, but I mean, we got Sean Porter. We got guys like that, even Manny, even Keith. I think all those guys will give him a lot better test than anybody he's fought so far. And before he starts saying, I'll beat Spence, and everyone starts, already writing his check to the championship fight and beating everybody, I think he's got to beat a Porter. He's got to beat someone like that before he just gets automatically mentioned to beat guys like Spence. So I think Spence needs a little time to get back. He needs a fight or two, and then he can fight Crawford. But in the meantime, there's plenty of young, hungry guys that are willing to get in there with Crawford.
I can't get over your buddy, I guess, just brought in the groceries. I guess you're in the B kitchen, and he just brought me. It looks like he's like 3 miles away from you. I mean, that's how big that place is.
About 15, 20 yards away from me. Camp chef, he does a hell of a job. So.
And so you told me you're staying in shape. You're doing a lot of lifting these days, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because in boxing before I always had to make weight. I always struggled to make 200. I was never a heavyweight, but I was slightly too big as a cruiserweight as I got older. Every time I made weight after I was about 34, 35, all the way to 39, I didn't make it the right way because I just couldn't get it down. And, now I'm walking around about 235, and I feel good. I feel strong, a little thicker, but it's nice not to have to cut weight all the time. I feel good, and it makes working out fun again instead of always having to work out.
Well, BJ, anything you want to say in closing before we get out of here?
No, man.
Someone's cooking you dinner, so I know you want to get the heck out of here.
I'm just looking forward to seeing you back in action, Mark. Hopefully, we can have you on Impact Network soon, and you could join me in the booth. And
that'd be wonderful.
We could fulfill one of those predictions we made probably 15, 20 years ago.
Absolutely, we did make a prediction that we would be calling fights together. Who knows? Anything's possible. We just got to get this virus out of the world. Forget about all the country, out of the whole world. So I appreciate. Before we let you go, where will we find you on social media?
My Instagram is BJ Flores Pro. My Twitter is BJ Flores Boxing. I mean, I interact with my fans. I talk to everybody. People ask me a lot of questions. I try to answer them about Jake or about boxing in general. So I do my best, but that's it. I'm just, nose down, working hard, and just focus on what I got and looking forward to the future.
There he is, former two-weight contender, trainer to the stars, realtor to the stars probably at some point.